Peter. Okay. Hi, this is Amy Norton. I am the School Nurse Organization of Washington president. I am also a School Nurse Corps administrator from Yakima. I was able to attend the facilities work group at OSPI on the 28th, where Nancy Bernard from DOH presented to our group on environmental factors that we need to consider when we reopen our buildings. A couple of the key points that she mentioned to us were that until there's a vaccine, we will still need social distancing. Ventilation and hand washing access need to be available in our buildings, and that COVID-19 is a respiratory illness, so foggers and sprays don't work, and they can actually cause respiratory irritation that can increase your risk for contracting the virus. We were able to discuss the need to be in a place in our communities where returning to school makes sense. We talked a little bit about staff capacity and the need for health services in our sick and our well health rooms, the need for PPE availability in order to open our schools safely, and that our facilities are not designed as isolation units. So our work group started a matrix to identify what specific needs we need in different areas of our buildings, like our classrooms, our communal areas, and our health rooms and our isolation areas. I was able to make sure that they understood that there was a need for separate areas for our kids that are symptomatic versus our kids who need routine care like medications and first aid. We're turning in our notes today, and we hope to hear back from them on the 2nd with where they're going with that information. Carrie.
Hey, thank you, Amy. My name is Carrie Nicholson. I'm Assistant Manager Health Services with Seattle Public Schools. And yesterday on the 28th, I was able to participate on the Transportation Committee. Yesterday, most of our conversation really looked at how we can reduce transmission on the school buses and a little bit about employee concerns about being able to safely return to work, not just for staff, but for students. Overall, we talked about a few examples were walking school buses, plexiglass, how can we stagger pickups, and do we have capacity to even do that? We know across the state that transportation looks differently in King County, where there's public transportation that students utilize to get to school versus over in rural counties. So it's going to look different, and we have to be mindful of that. We talked about masks. And finally, we talked about how do we keep parents also involved? What is their accountability with that? And what is the role of the bus driver in having to do temperature checks per se versus what is the school's responsibility or staff at the schools? Ultimately, we didn't have a lot of answers. And what we are doing now is presenting that back on Tuesday and in a summary of what our findings were and really around the mitigating measures and what those need to look like. And we may reconvene and we hope to have more information to you. I'm going to go ahead and pass over to Sonia now.
Hello, everyone. I am Sonia Buchter. I am the district nurse for the Enumclaw School District, and I had the pleasure of collaborating with Liz on the whole child work group. We focused on 3 models of returning to school. One being a split or rotating schedule where they kind of had an A-B where everybody came back, but on week A, you had half your population who attended school Monday through Thursday, everyone distance learning on Friday. The following week, Group B would attend in person. Group A is doing distance learning. Everybody does distance learning on Friday. Model 5 is the other model we talked about, and that is a phased in. You have to create groups of students that would return in physical attendance while the remainder of your population is physical distancing. It didn't seem like the best alternative to most of us, because how do you determine who actually gets picked to return in person? But it did have some pieces that we liked. The third model is being referred to as Model 7, which is Continuous Learning 2.0, which everybody still does distance learning until such a time as everybody could come back. And there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and Liz will talk about a few more things that we discussed in our work group.
Hi, I'm Liz Prey, President-elect of the School Nurse Organization of Washington, and also school nurse over in Moses Lake. Sonia and I did get a chance to sit in on that whole child work group yesterday, and there was a lot of key points that were brought forward that we have to be concerned about when returning. You know, we've got our students and staff that we've got to consider all those ACEs and trauma with everybody being at home, separating from their peers and that support group. Professional development was a huge one that we talked about yesterday, and making sure that not only our nurses are trained to recognize what's going on, but how are we going to support our staff, our other ESAs, how are we going to support our new staff? Is there a concern that part of our staff won't be coming back? Each of the models had its pros and cons. We will be meeting again in a larger group. There's so many questions that all of us had, so many what ifs that we brought up. How are we going to make sure that, you know, we're trained in de-escalation techniques? How are we recognizing the anxiety versus COVID symptoms? You know, who's going to do that? Because hashtag, where's your school nurse? There's a lot of people that don't realize most of us have more than one building. And who's going to be assessing those kids, you know, and who's going to be there for the staff members, and making sure that the employee assistance is accessible, and maybe beefing that up a little bit, you know. So there's a lot of questions unanswered. There's more groups that are meeting today, and there's groups that are meeting on Monday, and then we're going to come back as a big group on June 2nd. So we're hoping to have some more information as we move forward, you know, and hoping to have little videos like this highlighting what's happened as we go day by day. So be watching for us to come back and ask some more questions. And just so everybody knows, on the School Nurse Organization of Washington webpage, there is contact information for all of us, you know, so drop us an email if you've got questions or something that didn't get addressed, or a what if. But remember, everybody, that what's coming out of this work group is going to be guidelines, and make sure that you are in contact with your district administration, so you're prepared to help with actual things in your district when we come back. So yeah, I was excited for this opportunity, and watch for us in the next coming week. Thanks.